Better believe there's a light that shines upon you, and it's more than you can hope for in your dreams.
Welcome, Mary Beth Shaw. I am so excited to have you here to catch up on, I think, 15 or more years.
I know, right?
Yes. And I'm going to have Mary Beth introduce herself, but I always like to start these heart-to-heart sessions with lighting a candle and really bringing and calling in the energy of the light. And because it's Mercury retrograde, we are really going to call in that light. And we're going to bring that energy to this call, to this heartfelt conversation. And I'm so grateful you're here. So thank you, Mary Beth, and thank you to the light for being with us today. So
Thank you.
yeah, please just take a minute and introduce yourself and who you are, and look at all
Yeah.
those wonderful juicy paints in the back of Mary Beth. This is like studio session
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
know. I feel like I'm sitting in this abundance of gold, like I'm sitting in a golden paint store.
I love it.
But
Awesome.
I looked up a bio of myself right before we came on, and I think I'm just going to click over to it real quick if I can find it here. And because it was a nice thing to reread for myself. Isn't that so funny? So I said, and this is my first person bio that I had done this year. I said, I am so lucky to be living my dream. I worked in the insurance industry for many years and finally quit in 2000 to explore my creativity. I have never looked back, and today I fill my days with teaching, managing my company, StencilGirl Products, and making my own art. Mixed media is thrilling to me because of the freedom it offers. I feel like a mad scientist playing with all the options. My process is a dance between spontaneity and intent, and mistakes allow me to detour into new territory. I'm proud to be an educator for Golden Artist Colors and Silver Brush Limited. I founded StencilGirl Products in 2010. So
Ooh.
that's it, the little nutshell. And you were kind of there at the beginning, weren't you, Sheri?
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because I feel, Mary Beth, like we both kind of came up at the same time.
Yeah, we did.
And we just reestablished that our deep connection was Tanya Jenny, who was both of our editors, I believe.
She was, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had no idea you were a golden rep, so that makes sense.
I'm one of their educators, and I'm an educator for Silver Brush too, but that's how I have all the paints.
Now I'm serious.
Yes, I am an educator, and which was a dream come true when I went through that the education system with them. I mean, they're my favorite paints,
Yes.
always and forever. So
They
yeah.
really are. I mean, for everything, their quality, their translucence, all of that. And I'm not familiar with silver brush. So what is that?
Silver brush. Well, this isn't that weird? It's gold and silver. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know. Silver Brush Limited, they manufacture fantastic brushes. Some of my favorites are their watercolor line, the black velvet brushes. Look at this one. It's just like you want to just play with it. And but the thing I loved about both of these companies is the education that they have provided for me, because I'm not a college trained artist, and to have companies that will educate me about how to use their products is just beyond my dreams.
So awesome. And I'm so grateful that you shared that piece that you're not a college educated,
Right.
because I was for only photography, but I went to photography school because I couldn't draw the way other people drew,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
but I had this deep desire, even from childhood. Sorry, I just did my hay for my horses and I'm dreadfully allergic.
Oh
Um,
no.
it's
Uh-huh.
a labor of love, y'all. But I I had this deep desire always to be an artist. I think because I had so many at that time, like I said, I'm going to be 65 in a couple weeks, so many learning issues. And at that time, when we grew up, it was like you were shamed for them versus supported for them. And
Mhm.
so for me, like the one safe space appeared to be horses and creativity. But
Mhm.
I still could not create the way Garth created. I can't do perspective because I have a learning issue where I can see depth, but when I go to translate it, it's literally backwards. It's like a dyslexic spatial. And I've only met one other artist who has that. So
Mhm.
I went into photography first by stealing my dad's camera.
Mhm.
Then I got one for graduation, went to school thinking I was going to be a teacher, quickly decided that that wasn't the road I wanted to take, took one photo class in college, dropped out, much to my mother's dismay, drove my little VW home, loaded up at Christmas time, and said, I'm dropping out and going to art school. And her response was, over my dead body.
Oh my gosh.
But
Wow.
that's what I did. I went to photo school.
Mhm.
And so I love hearing that because, and I'm sure you know this and you've heard it a million times at this point too. The most common thing I hear in my world, with my students, with my clients is, but I'm not an artist.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Hmm.
So what would you say to people who say that?
Oh, wow. Well, I think every one of us is an artist. And, the way we may show our artistry to others or to the public is all quite different, but I am utterly convinced we are all creative, we are all artists. I feel that we were born that way, and through society, we may morph or change into something different, but we all have that in us. All of us do.
Totally agree. And I believe it's innate. And like, because when we're small, until someone tells us that the elephant can't be pink,
Yeah.
that's when it begins, I feel. Like, oh,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Or
Mhm.
somebody comes over. I have this beautiful video that I share with my students of my friend's daughter.
Mhm.
Well, it's my friend's granddaughter,
Mhm.
her daughter's daughter. And she's now in her probably mid 20s. And she's got these little bunches, and she's standing in front of a kiddie easel. She's in Hawaii. She has no shirt on. And she's sitting there with her little brush. And she
Mhm.
is standing in front of that easel and she's saying, beautiful monster, beautiful monster. And then she takes her colors and she's just going all over the canvas. And when I show that to women, they start crying
Oh my gosh.
because that's who we were.
I
That's,
know, right? Exactly.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. Before someone said, be a scientist, you're not good at art,
Mhm.
right? And so what you said too really spoke to my heart, which, about, it's not just about using a brush. I don't have pretty brushes like you.
I know. That one's so beautiful. I can't bear to pay with it.
But it's like when I'm in my garden, it's a creative act.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Cooking, all of those things. So,
All the things, yeah.
all of those things. So, with what's going on in the world, well, yeah, we won't go all the way down that rabbit hole. Keep this really positive, you guys.
I know, right?
But seriously, though, I do believe that right now we need this more than ever.
Oh, I
More.
think so too. I did this group last week. I was invited to meet with a group of local people. And I wasn't quite sure the reason for the invitation. I didn't know if it was like a holiday greet and meet or what meet and greet or whatever. So, but something told me to go. And it was being held by a lady who I know peripherally, but she's not really in my inner circle. Anyway, I went to it, and there were few artists I knew, few artists I didn't know. And the point of it was to talk about today's world and beauty through art, and some way that we could perhaps get together and make sure that beauty was available to the people who needed it the most in the world. And anyway, it was a fascinating evening. We're going to do more on this topic. And I was very excited to have been included in that discussion because I have a lot of passionate feelings about that. And these ladies, and actually there's a guy too, but this group was very convinced that if you look at the socioeconomic levels in our country, it's the people at the lowest level that are not getting the opportunity to experience beauty in their lives today. And we thought that as artists, perhaps we might be able to maybe make a little baby impact in that area. I don't know.
What
So,
this year is all about, like for me, and
yeah. Yeah.
I'm calling it a creative evolution.
Uh-huh.
And I have pretty much my whole career served the underserved, because I
Hmm. Hmm.
as a licensed clinical social worker. And so a lot of the courses, well, the workshops and classes that I do now are often um, collaborations with nonprofits in my area.
Oh, nice,
So
nice.
that, like, we offer a monthly art healing and hope locally, and I also offer it online. And it's sponsored, co-sponsored, a little bit by me, a little bit by the art center where I teach it, and also by a local mental health organization. And so we
Mm-hmm.
don't charge, which is incredible.
That
Uh,
is.
and so there are all these, this is something that I teach in the training is, when I went to clinical social work school, we did the whole thing. We had a couple of internships, but then they sort of just kick you out of the nest. You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm now responsible for people's mental health. Like
Right, right.
one of the things that's super important to me in the training that I do is you learn over the 8 weeks, you learn the material, the Creative Awakenings material, mixed now with expressive arts. And then you have a 4 week practicum where you go out in the world and you have your group and you're doing it, but we're doing like mentorship through that process. So, yeah. So, speaking of the book, let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit. I mean, like it is the 15th or more at this point anniversary of the
Is
book.
it really? Oh my gosh.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Um, Mary Beth, hold on, I have it right here.
Oh, I'm so glad you do. I should have pulled my copy out. I love the cover of that book anyway. It's so
Oh,
pretty.
Tanya. Oh my gosh. Here's the
Got it.
funniest thing about this as a dyslexic human, writing the book was
Uh-huh.
what I call my coyote experience because it's
Uh-huh.
like a cosmic joke that a dyslexic human could write a book and have it published. But
Yeah.
I say that it was all Tanya. I handed her this like 500-page opus, and she took that opus. Here's Mary Beth's chapter, and
Oh,
yours was the Clarity Cave. Now I remember. And look,
oh, yes, yes, yes. I want to go back and read that now.
I know. Let me just tell
Very,
you,
very relevant to me. It says January too, right?
yeah,
Oh my
January
God.
Dreamer.
January Dreamer. Yes, yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh, Mary Beth, this takes me back.
I
And
know, right? Me
your
too.
quote says, And this is probably like no accidents ever in my reality.
Right, right.
Finally, finally, I knew what I would envision for myself, a path to clarity.
Mhm.
Um, so you wrote, so here's what your writing was. When
Mhm.
Sheri asked me to become involved with her book, I instantly knew I wanted to do the month of January because it is always a time of renewal for me.
Oh.
So if you can go way back,
Mhm.
um, do you have any memories of doing this book or doing your chapter for the book and what that experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, boy, I was in that baby steps stage, you know?
Yes.
Like, like I knew I was on the art path that I wanted to be on. I had already quit my day job, of course, and but a few roadblocks had been thrown up, as they often are, but they didn't seem unsurmountable. So I was proceeding on with that path, but I wasn't quite sure yet how it was gonna, manifest in my life, really. And I just was having to take some the baby steps and hoping that I was taking the right baby steps and using my gut, which I always do, gut checks and yes, yes, yes. I think were you published in 2010?
Oh,
Yeah.
2000, I contracted in 2007, went
Yeah.
a 3 month writer painter block where I actually thought I was going to have to call them and say, I can't do this. And wrote the book for the year, and then it came out in 2009.
2009. Okay. So my first book came out in 2010, but that was in that time when I had just decided to stop doing the art fairs, the outdoor art fairs, which I had was an exhibiting artist and selling quite a bit of work in that market. And in 2008, we had that recession and that market really started drying up. And I mean, when you're standing on the street in a tent trying to sell your art and the market dries up, this is really a lot of pressure. I mean, that was my income. That is how I earned my living. So it was in that transition time that I decided perhaps I'll try to teach, and try to, convert to that. And I subsequently taught out at Art Fest in Port Townsend, Washington, which is how I came into Tanya's periphery. And then how you came into Tanya somehow thought you and I should meet.
And I had done Art Fest too. I had done an Art Fest. I had a booth at Art Fest. And that's how I met Juliana Cole, and
Oh,
who I still am connected to this day. Oh, the sun is doing funny things. And I just like a lot, Tisha. I mean, it just seems like eons
yeah.
ago, but it was such that was an incredible thing that she did, Art Fest.
It was so special for me because, I had quit my job in 2000. Here we are. I think 2008 is maybe the first year I taught out there. I threw my application in, no idea if she would want me. And she picked me and I sold out classes. And it's like she gave me a chance. I was kind of an unknown in that world. I was an unknown in that world,
Same.
And I had said to her, you gave me a chance, And that's where I first taught. It's where I first sold my stencils a couple of years later. And my husband and I went out there to Port Townsend for our, maybe our 20th or 25th anniversary. I wanted him to see, where we used to be out there. And I said, honey, I feel like my whole life started here, It was kind of crazy.
That's
And
so awesome. She gave a lot of artists their start. And,
she did.
I honestly believe Tanya did that for me. I
Tanya did too, because then after she saw me on the teaching roster, she contacted me. She called me out of the blue. And I'm like, and I was like, she said, "Well, I think you have a book in you. I would like to have you write a book." And I absolutely resisted that. Like, oh no, I think not. I said, I don't want to bring a book into the world unless I have something new to add to the conversation. I felt like, yes, I'm a mixed media artist, but if I do this, I really want to bring some fresh perspective because, those were kind of the heydays of these books.
Yep. Yeah.
That time frame. Remember?
That's
Gosh, a lot of good
Oh,
books.
I mean, Kelly Ray came up about the same time. I
Yep,
think our books were released within 6 months of each
I
other.
think so. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And I mean, just seeing where everyone has gone, like you developing your stencils and I mean, I just said to Mary Beth before we actually started recording, like, I look at Mary Beth as somebody who I consider to be an incredible organic businesswoman. Really, like we talked about, we did some coaching together.
We did. We did. Yeah.
And I look at where you've gone and I'm like, wow, I got somehow left way behind in that whole world. But it's like Claudine Helmuth and you and just
Yeah.
I feel so blessed, really. I haven't thought about any of this in years, honestly.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
feels really timely as I sort of get ready to like pass the torch to the next people who want to carry the torch.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
feels so beautiful, Mary Beth, to be talking about this with you. Like to have that sort of like running a movie of those early beginnings.
It is really interesting, isn't it? I know. It, I mean, gosh, if you think back to when I was coaching with you, I don't think I was saying, "Oh, I'd like to start a stencil company and have stencils sold worldwide." That was like, no, I hadn't thought about that. But
And
yeah.
I met Tisha because, well, somehow I was on Tisha's rubber stamp thing. And then
Uh-huh.
I had a dear friend who lived here who decided she was going to open a rubber stamp store. And I was like, oh, what? And she's like, no, it's like this thing. And I'm like, what are you, rubber stamps? She goes, your drawings would be incredible rubber stamps. And I was like, what? Well, so then, of course, like I get in touch with Tisha and I'm like, how are you putting together this rubber stamp zine? And then she turned me on to Jim, who owned that company called Circus Stamps, who made the rubber stamps.
Right,
And
right.
so I started carving. All my stamps were hand carved. And I loved that. And then I'd send them to Jim, and Jim would make the rubber stamps. And then I'd stick them on these wooden blocks. And my ex-husband said to me one day, do you think we're making like a penny a rubber stamp with this? And I said, yes, but it's so much fun, isn't it? And
I
the
know, right?
mail art that we got, like all that mail art,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
it was really a special time. And honestly, I did no idea that we were going to go down this rabbit hole.
I know, right?
But it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Like it really,
Mhm.
like I think about, we don't know. This is like really what I talk about in the book, which is I think goals are wonderful and they have a specific energy to them, right? But in the book, I talk about the goals being like looking at a bullseye with a bow and arrow, and we're looking at that black dot, and we are very intent on getting that arrow in the dot, but we are missing sometimes what is in our around us
Mhm.
versus this intention, which is
Mhm.
like, you know, having a blank canvas and adding color and energy, and it's wide open and spacious. And like if either of us had said in our life, this is what it's going to be, right?
Right, right.
40 years and a gold watch at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you lead now traveling trips for people, and
That's such a joy. It's such a joy doing that.
oh my gosh, you are living my dream. Really,
Oh.
really.
Yeah, I do love the travel trips. It's such a great experience to meet people, meet like-minded people, and spend quality time with them doing the things you love, which I'm a walker, so I do like the art programming on European walking trips. So for me, that's like, oh my gosh, my favorite things. And we make art in responding to where we are in Europe and the sites and so on and so forth. And
Oh, yeah,
it's just what a dream. I mean, it's amazing.
it
Yeah.
is a dream. Well, and I want to go back to something that you said about using your gut, because
Yeah.
I think, and I work with a lot of addicts who are in early recovery and trauma, big trauma. And so most of them, especially people who have, experienced trauma, are functioning from the neck up, right?
Oh,
And have lost touch with tuning into their body, sometimes because it wasn't safe or whatever it is.
yeah.
But a lot of my personal healing experience was around beginning to really trust my gut, trust the idea of synchronicity, which is where the book really came into, which
Mhm.
was creating the Book of Dreams journal and not just saying this is what I want to envision, but creating it. And it's there. Like you have artifacts of your life journey, your
Mhm.
intentions, your dreams, your hopes. And it's not like that every single one of those things is going to magically appear.
Right, right.
But it's like you said earlier, like I could never have imagined
I know.
that this is where your journey would have led you.
I know.
But
Yeah.
all along, you've listened to the wisdom of your gut.
Right. Yeah, I can think of specific examples with that. One was with respect to the stencil company. We stay in our lane. We're a stencil company. We make stencils. We sell stencils. They're stencils. There's nothing else. They're just stencils, you know? And I see a lot of companies that expand so beyond what I might guess would be their lane. And I mean, maybe people don't understand why I'm as single-minded as I am, but it just makes sense to me, that if you have something that you're passionate about, which I was passionate about stencils, was also passionate about expanding that so that we had artist designers who we pay royalties to, ongoing royalties. It's one of my greatest pleasures is, every year six figures into royalties are paid out to our artist designers. It's
Beautiful
ongoing. It's not like it stops.
legacy, right?
I
And
mean, I love that. I know before I was doing any of this, when I was living just on my art, relying on my art to pay the bills, a little bit of passive income. Oh my gosh, that meant the world. So yeah, that's super important to me. But anyway, that it's that gut thing, because there were some times when I would think, well, what if we, invented a special sponge that went with the stencils, or like I'd go off on some hijink down the road somewhere, and then I'd just go, nope, we're a stencil company. That's what we do.
so that's another really beautiful piece of advice in a way, because I am somebody who does a lot of different things.
I
And
know, right? Me too. I'm like, yeah, right.
sometimes I think like that gets confusing, A, for the audience, and B, for me, wrangling horses
Right.
and running up to ranches and then coming back into my studio. And this week I'm in another studio teaching and all that. So I think
Uh-huh.
something really beautiful to be said for that. And I love that there's this circle that you are working with energetically for the artists. Like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's really important to me. And most of our artists, so many of them, they're drawing these stencils by hand. They're not graphic designers. They're like, they don't have that skill set. So nothing against a graphic designer. I'd love to have that skill
oh,
set, but I just don't. And so a lot of them are like me, they come from a tradition where it's, putting pen or pencil to paper. And yeah.
yeah, that's how all my stamps started was
Oh,
I
wow.
was just crazy little line doodles.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then for me, what they thought they were. And then,
Mhm.
Andrea's like, "Oh, those are rubber stamps." I was like, so I'm going to put Mary Beth's contact and her stencil company in the link at the bottom of the YouTube video. So you'll be able to learn more about her and reach out to her. And her stencils are quite delicious, I might say.
Oh, thanks.
And I like to close up Heart to Heart with if you had one piece of wisdom that you would share with those folks who are watching today, what might that be? I'm putting
Hmm.
her on the spot, you guys. She didn't really know that this was coming.
I know. I have I have some things that I abide by in my business and in my personal life. And one is that I always treat people the way I want to be treated. And I feel like it never is wrong. It's never a wrong thing. You know what I mean? Just treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's pretty easy. Yeah, I think I talked about the trust your gut. For me, it is a true physical feeling. It is a true physical, like I feel it at some level other than the brain, I try to trust my gut and just oh gosh. So I don't want to say a failure to plan because that sounds ridiculous, but I do at the beginning of every year, I get this huge piece of paper and I just start writing all kinds of stuff all over it. And I mean, everything is like a brain dump almost. I mean, people call them mind
Fine.
maps.
Yep.
And so I put all these things on there, and then I eventually come to the place where I can put them in a category. These are my personal things for next year. These are my business things. These are my coworkers, this or that, and I try to organize them and try to get a sense of guidance for the future from that. And I have them, I mean, going back years. And
Love
it's kind of
that.
cool. It's kind of cool to open them up and look at them and go, oh, yeah. Because I then fold them up and put them away.
That's Mary Beth. I love that. Do you know that's how I wrote the book?
Oh, nice.
Well, it was in my old house, and there was a basement where it wasn't actually a basement, but it was like a place that had a really long wall where our bedroom was, but it also had a little desk under the stairs where I wrote the book. But on that long wall, I took those giant pieces of newsprint, and
Yeah.
each chapter
Oh,
had a
nice.
piece of newsprint because having 11 artists was like herding cats. And
No doubt.
my gosh. And so this one is there stuff here, and then this, and then all the deck, the cards in the deck. Like it was really intense writing that
Oh,
book. So
my
I have
God.
such a beautiful appreciation for that idea, and I might actually borrow that because I
Yeah.
love it's just like this is the dream, right? I love
Right. 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 But I think lastly, and we've mentioned this, it's come out, you've said it, I've said it, but authenticity. I think that I mean that's all we really have at
I
the end, you know, is our own authenticity, our heart. And so I just do want to respond to people with authenticity, conduct my business with authenticity, make my art with authenticity. And when it's not. I mean, you know when it's not.
I just came from the horse. This is pretty authentic. People sound like, oh, sorry, no time to shower between that and this. The truth of the matter
Um,
is, and we hear this all the time, right? That in marketing, which, whatever, I'm not that person, but that when we are authentic, we attract our perfect people
oh gosh, yes, yes, yes.
because they see it and they're naturally drawn. I'm not going to be for everybody. You know,
Oh, I know. Right,
and it's okay.
right.
Think somebody thinks I'm for them, and then they're like, yeah, she's not for me. And it's like, it's okay.
It
Because
is okay. Yeah.
when we connect
Mhm,
with those people,
mhm.
it's an explosion of creative energy and inspiration, honestly.
It for sure is. Yeah.
Like when you take your trips, I'm sure like that must
Hmm.
be just such a heartfelt
Hmm.
time for all of you.
Oh, it really is. And it's why the trips are so many of the people are repeats that it's hard to accommodate all of the people that want to go, you know.
I want to thank you for reconnecting with me,
Oh, you're so welcome.
willing to come on and have this conversation with me, to share your beautiful wisdom, to see your awesome studio. And yeah, Mary Beth, thank you. And
Oh, it's
thank
been a joy. It was just, I'm honored. Thank you.
me too. And thanks for taking me down memory lane because
It was fun. It makes me think I should pull out my book and maybe do something around my own book for the anniversary. I thought, oh my gosh, that's kind of cool, right?
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And I wish you all the best. Happy holidays.
You too, you too, you
Happy
too.
2025. And I'll be in touch really soon.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.
Be well.
Bye bye.
Bye.